You look at the 2025 Mazda CX-50 and you probably think, oh great, another crossover. But what if I told you that most of what makes this SUV special is completely invisible? Mazda didn't just build another option to compete with the RAV4s and CR-Vs of the world. They re-engineered the way this car handles weight, grip, and real-world stress, and they did it in a way almost nobody talks about. The CX-50 got popular fast, but the 2025 upgrade pushes it even further into a category most people never put Mazda in, somewhere between a sport-focused SUV and a practical everyday machine. If you've ever wondered why this car feels different the moment you drive it, sharper, more planted, more confident, there's real engineering behind that. Today, we're breaking it all down in simple language. No hype, no useless specs, just the real reasons the 2025 Mazda CX-50 behaves the way it does. Here's the problem with most compact SUVs today. They're built like soft road cars pretending to be rugged. They have light steering, loose suspension, and overactive traction systems that feel like the car is fighting against you. They look adventurous, but they feel like tall, tippy hatchbacks. Mazda saw this. They knew most crossovers don't feel stable when you push them. They don't feel grounded in corners, and they definitely don't give you real control when the road gets rough, steep, or uneven. So, Mazda asked a simple question. Can we build an SUV that drives like a performance car, grips like an off-road machine, and still stays comfortable enough for daily life? The 2025 CX-50 is their answer. To understand why it works, you need to look at how Mazda re-engineered the platform, steering, suspension, and body stiffness to make it behave like a completely different class of vehicle. We'll go step by step, from the obvious stuff to the hidden magic underneath the metal. Most people think the difference in SUVs comes down to horsepower, screen size, or the badge on the front. But the CX-50's biggest advantage starts with something most buyers will never even see. It starts with a wider, stronger, and lower platform. Mazda built the CX-50 on a platform that is noticeably wider than most of its rivals. A wider track means more stability, simple physics. But they didn't stop there. They also lowered the roofline and reinforced the entire frame to reduce body flex. Why does this matter? It means less sway in sharp turns, better control on rough roads, a quieter cabin at highway speeds, and a much more connected feeling at the wheel. Mazda knows that stiffness is the foundation of confidence. If the body twists and flexes, the suspension can't do its job properly. So the 2025 CX-50 uses reinforced side structures, thickened floor sections, and stronger weld points to keep the body incredibly stable under pressure. This is precisely why the SUV feels so planted, even when the road is a mess. Now, let's talk about the ride, because Mazda tunes their cars differently from everyone else. They care about one thing most brands ignore: how movement flows through the car. When you hit a bump in most SUVs, you bounce, and you keep bouncing. It's a floaty, uncontrolled feeling. Mazda hates that. The CX-50 suspension is tuned to absorb the impact quickly and settle the car down, fast. This means one bump feels like one bump. The car doesn't wobble or oscillate afterwards. The steering stays straight, and you feel completely in control. The setup is a front McPherson strut and a rear torsion beam. Now, some people see torsion beam and think it's a cheap, outdated design. But Mazda tuned it to work perfectly with the wider stance and the stiff body, giving the CX-50 a smooth and predictable weight transfer when you're cornering. This is why the car feels like it leans so much less, even without expensive adaptive dampers. Of course, you need an engine to match that chassis. The 2025 CX-50 keeps the engines from the previous model, but with some refined tuning. The standard engine is a 2.5-liter naturally aspirated four-cylinder. It's not particularly fast or exciting, but it's famously reliable and built for everyday use. Its real strength isn't raw power, it's response. The engine breathes in a smooth, linear way. No sudden jumps, no dead spots, just predictable power. But if you want to unlock the true personality of this SUV, you need the optional 2.5-liter turbo. This is the engine that changes everything. With premium fuel, it delivers strong, satisfying torque early in the rev range, and it's paired with a 6-speed automatic transmission that keeps the power steady instead of constantly hunting for the right gear. Mazda didn't chase big horsepower numbers. They chased usable power. The turbo version gives you strong mid-range pull for effortless merging, smooth acceleration from a stop, and confident climbing power, even with a full car and cargo. And why no CVT? Because Mazda refuses to use a transmission that dulls driver input. A traditional automatic gives you real gear changes, predictable responses, and fewer problems under load. This choice alone sets the CX-50 apart from a sea of crossovers that rely on CVTs to save a few bucks. Now for the secret sauce, G-Vectoring Control Plus. It sounds complicated, but the idea is brilliantly simple. When you start to turn the steering wheel, the engine reduces torque for just a split second. This tiny adjustment shifts weight to the front wheels. More weight equals more grip. More grip means easier, smoother steering. The best part? It's all done automatically. You never feel the system turn on or off. You just feel like a better driver. In the real world, this means you steer with less effort. The SUV stays stable even in sudden maneuvers, and you don't get that floating feeling that's so common in tall SUVs. This system is the reason the CX-50 corners better than most of its competitors without even needing a sport mode. But Mazda didn't just design this for the pavement. They had the outdoors in mind. The iActive all-wheel drive system is smarter than you might think. It constantly reads data: steering angle, throttle pressure, outside temperature, wheel rotation, even your driving habits, to predict where grip is needed before the wheels even slip. This makes the SUV feel incredibly controlled on gravel, wet pavement, light trails, and snowy roads. It's not a hardcore rock crawler, but it's far more intelligent than most crossovers pretending to be one. And unlike many cars where driving modes are just fake settings that change the color of the dashboard, the sport and off-road modes in the CX-50 actually change its behavior. They adjust throttle mapping, all-wheel drive timing, stability control limits, and transmission response. This makes the car feel genuinely different depending on where you are and what you need it to do. Let's talk about steering. Most modern SUVs have steering that feels disconnected. It's light, numb, and vague. Mazda avoided that trap by using a solid steering column design, tighter gearing in the steering rack, and smoother on-center stability. This gives the CX-50 a serious advantage. You always know exactly what the front tires are doing. Even a small rotation of the wheel gives you a clear, immediate response. This builds tremendous confidence, especially at higher speeds or when you're pushing it in the corners. Inside, Mazda didn't chase the trend of giant floating screens and over-designed dashboards. The cabin is clean and driver-focused on purpose. You get physical buttons for climate control, a real knob for volume, and a screen placed high up at eye level. The layout is simple and reduces distractions. You can figure out the controls without taking your eyes off the road. The materials are not quite luxury, but they are solid. Sturdy plastics, textured surfaces, thick stitching, and firm seats. It's about consistency and quality, not fake chrome and glossy black plastic that gets scratched and ages badly. For 2025, Mazda is catching up on the tech front. The CX-50 uses a wide, sharp infotainment display. Wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are standard, and Mazda has improved connection stability, so you get fewer random dropouts. The driver display is simple, clean, and easy to read, avoiding the distracting animations other brands love. All of this engineering comes together to create a specific feeling. Mazda tuned the CX-50 to feel like a heavier, more grounded machine. Not soft, not overly stiff, just centered. It feels calmer at high speed because of its wide stance, stiff frame, and precise steering. It stays straight even during strong crosswinds. It feels stable on rough roads because the chassis absorbs the movement instead of bouncing the cabin around. And it feels quiet, thanks to thicker door seals, tighter panel gaps, and better underfloor insulation. The result is a calm, composed ride that doesn't feel cheap or shaky. Even the safety suite is tuned to be a partner, not a backseat driver. The lane keep assist holds the lane gently instead of jerking the wheel. The adaptive cruise control is smooth when slowing down and speeding up. The blind spot alerts are clear but not annoying. Mazda tuned these systems to support you, not fight you. So here is the part that most people miss. The 2025 Mazda CX-50 wasn't built to win on a spec sheet. It was built to win driver confidence. Other SUVs try to feel soft, easy, and disconnected to appeal to everyone. Mazda went in the complete opposite direction. They built an SUV for people who actually care how a car drives. This is why the CX-50 feels different the moment you touch the wheel. It's why it feels planted on roads where other SUVs feel shaky. It's why it holds its shape under stress instead of flexing and wobbling. And it's why drivers who enjoy a sense of control, even in a family SUV, find themselves leaning toward Mazda without even knowing why. The engineering is invisible, but it's absolutely everywhere. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this breakdown helpful, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the cars you care about. See you next time.